So an inspiration came to me, and I thought, I love when I get all these ideas of just innovating from many things. So as many of you know, I do astrology, I do all these things, and and I really just do it for fun. When I say fun, I mean like still in a way that is very beneficial to everyone. Because I think it has benefited me for such a long time as I play with the stones, beautiful stones, such a blessings. So today I wanted to share with you guys some idea that came to me, and you know how there's like new moon and all these things, and I thought, okay, well, I'll do that. And if you saw my previous post, great, that's one coming up for December 12th is a new moon. But I thought I'd do one on some of the other planets, and I thought, okay, what happens when you enter a new sign? That's like the new phase of the whole planet, how it behaves. And so on December 1 at approximately 7:40 a.m. yesterday, well, in my time it's yesterday, so 2 days for some of you, 2 days ago for some of you when you see this, it's when Mercury entered Capricorn. So it's a new beginning, it's a new sign, but it's also in a sign of a assertiveness. It's a leadership sign. It triggers it's part of the 10th house. It's about reputation, how the world sees you, your ego. And it's kind of funny because Mercury is tied directly to, it ties itself kind of like very closely to the sun, right? It revolves around the sun. So and it actually has a lot to do with ego and this desire to communicate, this desire to express its self-expression as well. So it's a very useful, exuberant, sort of very useful sort of feel to it. It's tied to Gemini. They're definitely very curious about information, curiosity. It's all about also adaptivity, transmission, information, learning, guiding, teaching. Youthfulness as well, because it's very much about trying to tie in what's your identity with how you start to verbalize who you are, basically. Especially if your Mercury is tied to your sun. But anyways, I want to kind of move into one of the charts. I dropped two charts for this one because I thought, okay, I think these ones apply. There's something going on here, and lo and behold, there's something that came up that was really, it's timely. It's very timely. Okay, so here's one. The first one is a basic chart on what I see here. So I'm going to squint while I look at this one. So as we all know, Mercury entered, see right there, exactly 0 degrees, approximately 7:40 in the, this is where you probably see where I live now. At, was this 7:40 a.m. Yeah, approximately 7:40 a.m. December 1, 2023. And this is a time zone that I'm in. So it's a time for new beginnings, a time for new information that comes through, and time for working with, it's probably also new plans. It's similar to the moon, where it's like new plans, new approaches, new ways of thinking, new ways of behaving, new ways of getting information, just like that's Mercury, transmission, going back and forth, and saying understanding as well, being open to it. In this case, it's a lot to do with structure, understanding material things, understanding discipline, understanding. It's very Capricorn, right? So Mercury in Capricorn is a slowing down of Mercury. It's almost like a retrograde, which just pulls you back and says, maybe you need to apply what you learn. So this is a time to apply what you learn, apply what you gained, and do it slowly. Go get like a really like, hand-on approach. It's an earth sign, so it's kinesthetic, but also kind of assertiveness is linked to it, because it deals with the 10th house. It's a lot to do with kind of restructuring your own identity and seeing if people think of you this way, then maybe it's showing what needs to change. This is why Capricorns are known for being hermits and isolation, because they're processing everything. They're processing their limits, they're processing what it means to go beyond the limit. If you come to this point in your life when you went, then where does that go? So it begs, it begs a question like, now what? Right? So it's like, where do you see yourself from this point on? How do you go beyond this point that you're in? Because success, once you reach success, represents also success, right? So they know that they have success, but they know for some reason that there is something beyond that, right? That's why when it moves to Aquarius, this is what Capricorns are here to learn. Generally speaking, they're here to see if they can go beyond this this form of the material world, and seeing what else is beyond the 3D. Right? That's why there's wisdom is associated with Capricorn. It's wisdom. It's also karma, and karma means in this case what choices we have to make. Do we stick with the status quo? Do we stick with the ideas and this is still Mercury? Do we stick with the new? Do we go with the new, or do we stick with the old? Are we going back? Are we self-retrograding Mercury, our own understanding of things, or do we find ways to kind of adapt, even if it's very slowly? Slow progress does not mean there's no progress. It's just slow. So there's still movement. You know what happens when you have still water, when you have anything that's like remains still, and there's no movement, right? There's no evolution, there's no adaptation, there's no movement. Even the most solid things have very slow vibrations, like the book right beside me, this laptop, this headset, this body, this skin, all that stuff. You look at its molecules, it feels like it's not moving, but actually it is. We just can't feel it, we just can't see it, we just can't sense it. I would say this is the time to bring down our thoughts back into presence, back into earth. Right? So you have a goal. Okay, this is also about goals, right? Good that you have goals, but let's not be stuck. And see, that's the shadow of Capricorn. It gets stuck in. It shows itself in the shadow of Cancer, where it's like going back, returning and going back, because it's like it's such a comfort zone. It's just like, I want to go back to something familiar. I want to go back to something that I'm used to doing. I don't want new ideas. I don't want innovation. There's a thing you have to learn about Capricorn. The Capricorn energy has to learn its way forward into Aquarius. It carries on its ideas and wisdoms, philosophy from the previous sign, Sagittarius, but now has to work with this new energy of how do I actually work with this at a pace that it's still moving and therefore not stuck. Think about this analogy, and actually not even an analogy, but the actual things that is matter. We're surrounded by matter all the time, especially in this 3D world. We're not, especially if you're, we're not light, but everything is, in a way, everything is technically matter. Think of the tools you have, think of the things around you. So it's time to slow down. It's time to process this thought. It's going to be here for about, give or take or so, a month or whatever, right? But of course, Mercury, I don't know, I forgot when Mercury is in retrograde. But don't wait till Mercury is in retrograde for you to enjoy this new opportunities to slow down. An opportunity doesn't always mean like, frantic energy, right? So we don't want that. Get really, really go deep into, you can call it meditation. It's not about technique. It's about just being. Forget the doing. Be in it. Even if you have thoughts running through your head, if you, let's say you have like an active Mercury, especially in Gemini, right? Use many different ways to ground you. It could be, I wouldn't necessarily go into sports because that's a very Martian thing. It's very Mars. It's very, you want something else to ground you. You want things that are more earthy. Go invest in planting something. Work with soil. Walk bare feet on the earth. Sleep on the ground. Align yourself with the planet. Align yourself with Mother Nature. And literally, if you have to do like feng shui, I did it here. Now, my head is apparently facing east or something like that. Here, I'm this way, this direction I'm heading. So I took that into advice, and it's like it's gotten so much better. There is something there. There is something about the energies around us. We just can't see it, but that doesn't mean that we don't, that it's not there. You know, the Saturn ruled Capricorn is, Saturn is also about faith, but it is karmic faith. It's the choices you make to get to where you are. It's not faith that is just it's not optimism that's just like, let's go expand. That's done and over with the Capricorn energy. It's done. It's learned from the previous sign how to have faith, how do you work with that previously, especially with Mercury, how do you work with that optimism carried over to this new, every time there's a Mercury in a new sign, there's always something new. Specifically right now, it is in Capricorn. It's in a cardinal sign, so therefore it represents something new opportunities that is about slowing down. And it's not necessarily to do. Remember, even though we think Capricorn is like, oh, it's all about the work, it's all about the discipline comes from learning how to work with the endings. In traditional astrology, Saturn, therefore represent it ruling Capricorn, was the last planet. That's what they knew back then. It represent the house of, it was like a death. It was like the end. But that's not true. We know that. So you work with that, what feels like ending, and you start to slow down. Do it. Follow Eckhart Tolle when he talks about, there's this video. He talks about how there's you can always make it a practice to be present. Any movement that we do, every movement. Right, it's, your attention goes back to the body. And it's funny because this Capricorn, this Saturn ruled sign, Saturn rules the bones, the skin, so structure. To bring structure into your life without being so caught up in the doing. So this is the thing that's happening right now. But it's funny because it's also the galactic center is, I had to choose this one because I felt like there's something about, I need to put this in. So when we hone ourselves, when we actually meditate to the point where it's not even about meditation, just being, and I would really suggest doing cold showers. Try that. Do the Wim Hof method. Just do the breathing first. Try run around. Doing those things. This is also Capricorn. Little by little. One round breathing, cold shower, 5 seconds. Do that day by day. Do that day by day for the next 30 days. Right? Increase your number of cold showers. Increase the number of rounds. Look up Wim Hof method. Resourcefulness is also part of this whole thing. It carried over from resourcefulness from all the way from Virgo. It's a trine sign to Capricorn typically, right? It's funny because Virgo also just entered Libra. It was just also recently in, before, I would say, I don't know how long ago, but you can say that it carried over that resourcefulness side from Virgo. But even more so when Mercury went through Scorpio last month or 2 months ago, right? It pulled a, so you have this ability. It's showing us that we all have this ability within. You just gotta tap within. Stop thinking about it. This is the thing about Mercury, even Mercury itself. Just because you have thought does not mean that you rely on the thoughts you have. Right? It's good, it's great for learning, it's great for getting information. But what do you do with information? Right? Is it just gonna sit there in the ether? Right? So use it, but don't overuse it. So with Mercury also here, we see you see this right here. There's a square. Mercury is conjunct galactic center, so we get a lot of guidance from this area. I believe it's like the center. I believe it's the center of the galaxy. And I think Great Attractor is also part of that as well. But I'm really not sure. But the point is that there's this guidance we can get from when we listen in. And highly intuitive intuition, highly, just lots of guidance, intelligence, intuition, all of it combined. I don't know how to process it. Just like really like knowing what to do with that energy. And because it's now conjunct Mercury, we can use that energy. Definitely use that energy for the next, at the very least, the next few days or weeks. Right? And it's gonna be there. It's always inside of universe. Nothing is ever separate. Just because the chart shows it, oh, there's a square, doesn't mean that it's separate. Or it's like separating from a star or a planet. It doesn't mean that it's gone. It just means it's not as strong. It doesn't mean that it's not there. So it's squaring super galactic center right here. But also, this other square that doesn't apply to you guys because this is where I'm located. It's the MC. So, but definitely so it's that just trust in the guidance around you. And this is why I do the cold shower, right? Because I feel like I sense it even more, especially when it's like cold, cold. Again, don't overdo it. Right? Give it a try. And you'll see certain things. You'll become the more still you become, the more, because we're talking about matter, right? We say we can't sense the vibrations. Maybe we say we can't feel the energy around us. But the more we tap into it, it actually comes through the entire body, and eventually it becomes part of this understanding that as the brain itself grows, as we adapt to it, as we evolve, eventually those gifts will come through. And I feel like for me, I've been sensing it a lot more. There's still some times where I kind of doubt it, but there's all these signals and signs. Watch out for signs too. That's a bit of Mercury. Signs and symbols. If you see numbers repeating, right? People coming into your life, ask what that is. Suddenly someone comes into your life and it's a really positive. It could be a soul family, it could be someone to help you. Either way, everything is being used for everyone, and we are here to awaken. Mercury square Neptune. It might be, of course, questionable for some of us to have faith in and have sort of believe in this natural ability to be magical. It's not necessarily magic, but it is way beyond that. It's intuition, it's high intuition, it's beyond, it's ideal. It is the reason why Neptune is about idealism, right? Especially because right here, Neptune right now in Pisces is in retrograde. So it's gonna feel like it's not there, but actually this is a time to slow down and see, well, do you have other abilities already that are like that? Don't you have intuition? You know, when you sense someone and you pause and you sense something's happening, and you're like, whether it's instinct or intuition, it's very similar. It's that energy. You feel that. Then go with that. Neptune is the planet of transcendence. So transcend the thing, your thoughts in your head, and go, okay, I'm the chattering box in your head. Surrender to those and let it, just let it go. It's not a forcing of letting go. You don't think of letting go. You become the letting go by literally like surrendering to it. Follow your breath. So in this case, it's the square is going to be affecting all of us and saying, and feeling like, oh, I can't get that. So whatever guidance you get, and this is going to come through the supergalactic center, meaning the guidance from all these like amazing and super like beings, guidance and angels and guides, whatever it is, whatever that comes through, allow for it. Possibly also allow for dreams to take over. Record your dreams. This is the time to write. This is also Mercury, writing things down. I love how these insights just come through right now. It's just like, oh my god, I love it. It's just like, okay. Even I sometimes didn't really realize until like, it's kind of like a growing realization that every time I get these insights, it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. Because I didn't think about that. It's such a beautiful thing, right? It's amazing. Let it be. Let it go. Let it go. That's what letting go is, really. Surrendering and trusting that it's you give in to give over rather than just giving up. But there is an energy to that too. When you give up, when we're at our lowest, that's when we, right? Cry if you have to. I cry if I want to, I cry if I want. There's that song. Who is that by? I don't know. Anyways, so this retrograde will definitely pull you in to see what is going to be realistic for many of us. You can definitely make use of the internal potential of opportunity, the internal sort of like belief in ourselves, even though you have Jupiter here retrograde, right? It's trine Mercury, and it's to me it's showing that it's an opportunity for us to. It's a natural thing that's going to happen. We look more inwards, but because of the retrograde, both planets are retrograde here. What's going to probably feel like is happening is like you might still find a belief in yourself and you process things inwards. You kind of wondering where your own personal faith is, and then you kind of want people might start to wonder, like, what about support? What about where is this coming from? Is this even coming through? Again, you can't shut the brain down. You can't shut it down. The only way to do that is you know how, but don't do that. That's not how it goes. This is not the time to give in to addictions and things that help us to escape, and then drugs and sex and the 3D sort of like the egoic magic, the whole like I want to run away into like TV shows that don't serve purpose, that don't elevate me. It's like the whole like, it's the time to really hone in and say, okay, what is real and what's not? But you can't do that with the mind. You'll know what's real when you tap back into the body. It starts with the body, and then you follow your breath. Right? Doesn't matter where you're coming from. It doesn't matter what history you have, what experience you have. You're here to learn. And here to grow. We're here to elevate. So this is part of my job right now. But my focus is on having fun. I would suggest actually truly for those who know astrology, follow your north node, but don't skip your south node. Don't ever forget that. It's kind of the same thing as like, I'm going to go good only, forget the bad. And it's called toxic positivity, right? So same thing. You'll have toxicity when you only go in one direction. It has to be whole. There's a reason why the infinity sign is like this way. It goes back and forth. Because that's how life is. That's how the universe works. That's how energy works. Okay. Okay, so Mercury is in Capricorn, so we definitely look at Saturn. And because Saturn was in Pisces, it's definitely like sort of a halt to be realistic with our own personal idealisms, what we choose to believe, what we go for, what we really want in terms of like not only ourselves, but like how, probably even like how we help others. This is also kind of tied to the ego because Saturn ruled 10th house is reputation. So watch out for your own beliefs about belief itself, your own beliefs about your own practices, your own, even if it's your religion, even if it's your own faith, whatever it is, whatever you're looking to transcend. You know, it's Saturn in Pisces is all about putting into reality your own inspirations, your own kind of like, you know, really what's out there, and kind of bringing it downward to earth, and then using that as a form of service to others. Even if it's like arts or music, you know, you can use your creativity towards things that are physical. And when you're creating something, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's, you know, it's actually creative, meaning like in the arts or in music or dancing. Okay, that doesn't have to be that way. You can create something by creating something, because Saturn is material. Saturn rules matter. Saturn rules thing, like solid matter. So it's time to crystallize those beliefs and kind of put it to good use. And that ties into this whole how it rules Mercury here. And what that represents is definitely a bringing into this planet or this your own reality. You start with your own reality. Do shadow work. Saturn is also the shadow. It represents a shadow. Similar, it's karma, shadow, doesn't matter. The point is, it's not, again, about the labels. Fuck the labels. Forget the labels. Things are tools. These are all tools. This is a Saturn thing. This is also a Mercury thing. So Saturn rules this one to show us that it's like we use the tools to bring forth information, not just I'm just getting information, this is the grammar. This is why when you're doing grammar and all that stuff, like with no, when it's just, you know what I mean? So instead of like just getting information for the sake of information, you know that doesn't work. You get it and then you forget about it. No. Mercury in Capricorn, the Saturn rule thing, trust is about using, or rather getting into hands-on experience before anything else. There's a reason why Earth comes before air. The flow of the cycle, right? Earth comes before air. Before we actually even understand anything, which is technically actually water, like a deep understanding, we have to work through it. We have to do something. So put it into not necessarily action, but more like steady doing, but more like also being in it. Just appreciating that it's like, okay, there's this matter. I honor the matter. I honor solidity. I honor these things. Or I honor these tools. How can it be of use? How can I be of use? How can this be of use? Right, this is also Pisces, but it kind of bringing it to reality, and with the higher purpose, bringing in the transcendent nature of Pisces into Capricorn. Okay, I hope that made sense. And with Saturn is actually squaring Saturn is squaring the Sun and Mars, so there's a definite a challenge to know how to act and what kind of revitalizes us, and kind of, because Mars, and when you have Mars and Sun together, it's like a very active, very assertiveness. People get really assertive, but with its square Saturn, Saturn is telling us you won't learn unless you learn it the hard way, in the slow way, in the slow way, in the slow way. You have to embrace the limitations. There's a reason for limits. Because if you don't have limits, what happens? Right? There's nothing to tether you. You're just all like wandering la-di-da. It's like if you eat and your body doesn't digest, what happens to food if you don't ever digest it? It just comes out of your ass. Bloop, 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 bloop. It's complete, utter chaos. That doesn't make sense. There's a reason for these limits. There's also a reason for this is why I mentioned the shadow work thing. Embrace that part of what you can't understand until you work with it. So you work with it, and you actually, Saturn will teach us that. Saturn is saying, no. There's this pull to want to do things, that want to be active, want to be inspired, want to do all these things. But you can't be inspired if it's all just coming through. Do you know if it's inspiration, or do you know if it's just a thought? Because sometimes what feels like a thought may not necessarily be inspiration. Is it of guidance? Is it something, or is it just out of the blue because you were curious about it because somebody else told you? And that's also the transition that's happening here between Sagittarius and Capricorn, is that Sagittarius is a flexible sign. It's all about adaptation. But with the thing about adaptivity is that when it's too adaptive, it can't go anywhere. It eventually loses its energy. So there's no. This is where that feeling of I'm not disciplined comes in. Remember, it's not even you. You're not what you experience. That's not what it is. The point is that it's that energy of how do you feel inside, and what is that energy you're sensing? What are your vibrations telling you? That's what's more real than what's in the head. The head is great. It's great for new ideas. It's great for, getting to know things. It's great the beauty about Mercury is it's curiosity. Be childlike, be adventurous. But the moment it starts to get to the point where it's just I'm going to overanalyze it to death, right? It isn't going to work. It's not going to work that way. That's why you also have these pauses. Embrace those pauses. Even Eckhart Tolle mentions it. You embrace those it's those moments of silence. Silence are the gifts. Maybe it's not making sense right now, and that's okay. So with Saturn squaring this, it's going to hopefully bring into light the limitations that must be imposed on the ego, in terms of possibly also this desire to just act and just to just the willpower. When we fight this, what happens? Destruction, right? What happens when we force heat to happen? I think you should experiment on that and see what happens. Real learning doesn't come when there's trauma. Real learning and real change doesn't happen until we experience through mistakes. And mistakes are going to happen, most likely, especially with it being in Sagittarius. There's a certain feeling of exaggeration. There's a certain sense of I'm going to exaggerate what I want. I don't give a fuck anymore. Fuck everybody else. No, that's not going to help. You know that's not going to help. If you haven't learned from past mistakes, Saturn will continue to go, no, you're not learning. No, you're not learning. Saturn may not reveal those things, but This is why it's good to go inwards. The inward process will be the ignition of these opportunities to realize there's gifts in everything. The positive and the negative. How we work with it is what's whole. This is what the thing is. I think many people have missed this. I don't know. I think humanity missed the memo, at least a long time ago, where the word good actually refers to a whole. What we perceive as good and bad are the separative conceptualization of the ego, because it separates itself from the whole, and at the same time doesn't embrace its own uniqueness. You see what I mean? So there's uniqueness and uniformity. I use those two words because they're alliterative. I love that. Uniqueness and uniformity come together as a whole thing, and that's what's good with wholeness, right? So let's not be caught up in like the whole syntactic the whole semantic thing. Okay, so but the point is, inwards helps us to bridge between what's here and what's out there and what's inside. It's all linked. We have to be open to that. We also get the energies from being able to, okay, here we go. We have Venus trine Saturn. So maybe it's a time to go back into relationships with community. So that alone, in effect, will actually help us with this new process. And this is where new learning probably most likely will come in. Back to communities, back to what really is true community, right? Venus is in Libra, so Venus is back home and has probably learned a lot through its process, especially as a planet, as a collective. I believe there's a collective Venus as well in all of us, where you know how planets have repeats itself. There's a personal, individual, like your planetary return. Same thing with humanity. So Venus has been rubbing off things that are less and less and meaningful, and that's what that energy from Venus with trine Saturn is telling us. It's like we have to learn from figuring out and being more discretion, having more discretion with the relationships we have with society and ourselves and our own aspirations, our hopes and dreams. Even when it comes to literal things like money and the work, you could say that's the 11th house. It's the money, the love we receive. So it represents also the love we receive, meaning like the abundance we receive from the worth of the 10th house, meaning like from careers. And so it gets us to work with our own worth and self-worth in relationship with not only community and people and society, but how we connect with the bigger picture as well. So tapping into that Libra energy of like, let's balance things rather than let's go one way or the other. Ties back into the whole infinity thing, right? So balance. This doesn't mean that you don't do anything. It doesn't mean that you don't do this. It doesn't mean that, no. Timing as well. Like, it's like a seesaw effect. It's like the scales. It doesn't always have to actually always be balanced. It can be like, it's that energy of Libra. It's an energy of evaluation, energy of re-evaluation. It's an Aries-ruled sign. For me personally, I love the fact that it is, because I find that Aries is like that. So don't always look for inclusion where it doesn't belong. And in turn, how that affects Saturn here is, because Saturn rules Mercury, is that when we learn to value ourselves even more, just as we learn to know what is a healthier ego, right, with these, they're all connected, then we start to realize, it's a realization. Mercury, okay, there you go. So now it's like work in progress. Allow that to happen. Still going inwards, even with relationships, even your self-worth, even your, whatever's happening, go inwards. And Saturn also, Saturn sextiles Jupiter here. So it's time to go to find out inner beliefs and what you believe about yourself, what you find is worthy of exploring. Alright? So self-exploration, inward exploration, limited exploration, and that's okay. Just because you have a limit does not mean you cannot explore things in that box. You can go to another box and explore that. So in other words, you're like again, that step-by-step process. So I'm tying everything to this new Mercury thing that's happening. There are other things to talk about, but this doesn't really tie into the houses because this is more general. This is for everyone else. Next time I'll probably do like a chart without the houses. I like looking at the houses. For some reason I'm so used to that, so I'll do another chart with that one. So I wanted to add to this the other chart. So I'm going to open that right now. Just give me 1 second here. Okay, here we go. Beautiful charts. Okay, so here I'm probably going to look back into that old chart again. So here's a messier chart. A lovely mess. And here we have, let me use the markup here again. So here we have Mercury. Okay, so Mercury it's definitely, we get guidance from all that, the galactic center. So a lot of guidance from out there, but also with our own 3D cells, with our own current lives here on Earth. There are all these like asteroids. So, and I might cheat a little bit on this one. So we have Anubis, specifically just Anubis right here. So it's a time of transformation, and when things are dying, when things die off, it means we're letting go of the old thoughts. Anubis is conjunct Mercury. We can use that energy to our benefit and say, okay, what can we do? And it actually ties back into Saturn itself. Saturn rules, the end of things, not necessarily end, but yeah, it's a limitation. So it is similar. Okay, similar energy. Basically, it's all connected, right? We can use that energy to help us grow in the process. I'm going to take a look at what it has here. So it's about transitions. Yep, inner transformation, rebirth. It's very Plutonian. It's kind of a Pluto energy. So cycles of life, death, and rebirth, self-realization. So it's a little bit closer to home because it is an asteroid closer to, I think it's in the asteroid belt rather than the Kuiper belt. So it's a little bit more closer to self-realization. Like, what gifts can we find? We don't just want to go all the way past into the Kuiper belt in terms of, in a way, beyond and involved without going back into the little things that are still part of the whole thing. Little things can still have an influence on our own experiences and our own growing process and elevation, right? So endings and change, okay? End of life things as well. Probably this is a time for people to not only a death of past beliefs, but past ideas that don't work anymore, that don't serve us. Career changes might be a thing as well. So this new makes perfect sense, right? Personal losses, it probably can mean that, but it's learning from those losses, the end of things and the relationships, career changes, personal issues, personal losses, end of cycles. It's very similar to Pluto. Acting with integrity. So that means that kind of coming to terms with, like, what is it that we start have we believed in the past, and is there something about this? So it's very transitionary, but that doesn't mean it's less effective just because it's like, oh, it's this little asteroid thing, right? No, it gives us to look at the little things. It's kind of like if you have a wound, if you think, oh, it's like a tiny little wound, but if you don't nurture it, what happens? It gets worse. It gets all pussy, right? That in itself can affect you, because when we look at that, it's like, right? We do these things with like moles and like zits. What do we do when we have a zit? Some people pop them. You're bothered by it because to you, there's this belief that that zit is going to affect your entire image. So it's a similar thing. Just because it's tiny does not mean it's not big. So we can definitely use that as a process to transition into this new, more disciplined way of thinking and saying, putting into action, or rather starting with action and getting that experience and then learning from those things by taking it step by step. As my parents would say, slow by slow. And it's also square to, it's interesting because Mercury, this conjunct right here, it's square to Heracles right here. So we might question our own courage towards that direction. We might question where we're, if at all it's probably worth taking, or if it's actually, like, how do we be brave? How do we go forward? Okay, let's take a look what else is in here. So we're going through that process of like, because if you look at the myth of Hercules or Heracles, he had those he had 12 labors, which actually ties into the 12 zodiac signs, right? So the point is, you must overcome those things in order for you to attain something more. Enlightenment could be elevation, could be anything. More consciousness can be a process, right? So it's a very Mars sort of energy as well. Okay, so in times of adversity, times of like differences, things that are uncomfortable, right? You must work through that, but little by little, those little things. Just because we see this whole thing with the 12 labors, just because Hercules was a demigod, does not mean that you're going to push yourself to, you're going to kill yourself, death by effort. You don't want to do that, right? So, yeah. It's also possibly a chance to, it's actually interesting because it's not squaring Delphine. Delphine is your psychic abilities, being able to sense things. So, but Delphine should be conjunct Mercury here, but I believe they're not conjuncting here through astro.com because it's an asteroid. I don't believe that. I believe that we can still hone in our psychic abilities, hone in what. Let's take a look. What else? Is there something specific to Delphine? Okay, vision. So if you get any sort of visions, it ties back into the Neptune thing I told you about, right? So if you have to write down, you can write down what thoughts you had, the dreams you had, write as many deets as much as you have. Like you can practice is it called free writing or something? I forgot. When you going through a process of meditation, and then what happens is that you type in, you can write down, you can use a pen or just type it in or whatever, and any sort of like thoughts that come to you, and I would go straight into doing it with gratitude. This also grounds you, because when you're connected to gratitude, you have an open energy, and the heart has a higher frequency, or rather it's a higher frequency, but it has a bigger magnetic field than the brain, which is interesting because that's what this is really all about, right? Mercury is like right here, right? But actually, Mercury doesn't really rule the head. Mercury is, yes, his thoughts, communication, but Mercury actually rules the arms. Okay, it rules the arms. There's something else more than that, but we're not going to go into that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to cheat a little bit. Mercury does rule. Okay, so the brain, the nervous system, the eyes, respiration, thyroid, thymus glands. Okay, so, but also, yes, the arms. Oh, well, I think that's more Gemini. Yes, that's more Gemini. But definitely like here, right? So, so the point I'm saying is that perhaps there's something about your own skills that you're probably doubting, that people might doubt. I think Delphine is retrograde. No, it's not retrograde. But, but Heracles is in retrograde. So Heracles here is kind of, we're doubting our own strengths. But there's a chance, an opportunity to use this Delphine energy to look in and look deep by allowing yourselves to like use our dreams, using our any sort of thing. If you can practice sort of vision. I don't know what it's called, but like because this happens to me where it's like if I close my eyes, I can see images. Record that. You'd be surprised at what you see, and you're like, first of all, you're probably wondering, what does that all mean? Well, it'll come to you when you look for meanings on. There's lots of things going on now, and that's part of the Mercury process. Resourcefulness. Go to the internet, take initiative, and this is part of the Capricorn energy. Initiative, assertiveness, time to go, time to do it. But take it step by step, little steps, minuscule. Watch out for things that are like fake news, and watch out for that stuff. This is what Delphine is also talking about. You don't know what's going to. You can't have psychic abilities if it's all grounded in ego. Psychic is connected to a greater your greater self. It's more if you're separated, then it's just wasted energy of talking, wasted information, wasted learning, wasted experience. Fake news, fake rumors, gossips, hearsays, don't go with that one. You might also feel like you want to look for solitude, that's fine because this is funny because it ties in. Delphine is in Capricorn right now. So for sure, absolutely, it's going to be more about solitude, and that's okay. This is a time to hone more of that gifts anyways. With, well, technically we have here a conjunction. So Psyche, Horus, Anubis, and Mercury are conjunct right now. So with Psyche, it's not just psychic abilities. There's something more to Psyche. I saw it here. Okay. Transformations, so connections form with, okay. So it kind of ties back into the depths of your soul, profound, on earth, emotional connection. So it does tie in with the aspect of Saturn to Venus, which is interesting because now you have this sort of thing going on here. Mercury is in conjunct to Horus, Anubis, and Psyche. So sudden changes of are yes, you can say psychic, but also like deep, intense connections at a psychic level, at a deeper, more, what is that word? Yeah, deeper, like a soul level connection with others. Not necessarily relationships itself, but yeah, when we connect with others, and it's still in Sagittarius. And it's nearing the end. It's like nearing the end of Sagittarius. So it's time to transition to what needs to die off. Past relationships, that has to die off. With Horus, there also trust your ability to sense. If you feel you have this natural gift for, because Horus is inner work, and inner sort of like that Mars sort of like, but it's internal. It's like the inner warrior, but because it's more inwards, Horus teaches us to look deeply into what we can accomplish when we actually look inwards. because it's a battle within. It's like fighting your own demons. It's a very Horus thing. So, and you might also develop the clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairsentience, or there's 5 of them at least, or something. I'm sure there's, but basically it's all about being clear with the truth and finding your inner truth, finding your inner process, finding that you're dying, or figure out what those inner truths are from the dying and the loss and the past of relationships, even current ones. You question those and wonder, it's like, is this real? Especially with Sagittarius. Sagittarius wants to be real too, because it's already gotten past Scorpio, which is all about genuine, like fucking Pluto energy, right? And with Sagittarius, this is why Sagittarius is also exaggerates, because it's so honest now that it's like it's refreshed. It's like, let's go beyond. It's to start anew, right? Sagittarius rules the 9th house, which is another new house of its new beginnings also, but in this case towards expansion, towards foreign things, new businesses, new philosophies. It's a super conscious house. So with Sagittarius there, it's like it's an opportunity to shift in terms of like what's gone, what's coming on, things are probably still coming and going, and be open to the new direction that it's heading into. With Mercury coming into, in Capricorn, it's already in Capricorn right now, then go into what else is bringing. Eventually these asteroids will come into Capricorn as well. So that means it's time for things that are like, okay, we'll work with what we have and okay, and then time to kill that off, let it die off. And using our own natural psychic, instinct, intuitive, all of the whole caboodle abilities, and seeing what else is there. Delphine is already in Capricorn, so being able to see and trust our own inner abilities to sense. Psychic doesn't necessarily mean like it's always like, oh, I can sense it, but psychic, when you hear psychic, it comes from instinct mixed with intuition. Right? And you do that by grounding yourself, because you're coming into that stillness. If you have to, be still. Start with the 5 minutes. Start going the next day. Go 10 minutes. See if you can go longer. And surrender to those thoughts. Surrender. That's also dying, right? That's a Anubis thing. Right? So even if you question it with the Neptune again thing, let it happen. Release it. And that's Neptune as well. You release it. You transcend that by surrendering to it as well. Osiris is also part of that conjunction that was with Mars and the Sun here. So Osiris is, let's look deep into Osiris. Okay, more in self-transformation. So it is time to go through figuring out what we want. Is it something healthy for us? It's about taking charge, death and resurrection. So renewal, rebirth. So very similar to Anubis, but with this one I believe that Osiris is more about bringing to care what needs to change, rather than just letting it happen, letting it die off. Transformative is kind of like, it's almost like you have to kind of make choices in this case. So ability to regenerate, transform, spirit. Okay, so this is where we start to kind of pile in what doesn't work anymore, what doesn't give us spiritual nurturing, what doesn't give us spiritual, not necessarily elevation. Remember we talked about the infinity thing, where you have to tie in the vertical with the horizontal. You know what I'm talking, right? So Eckhart Tolle talks about that, and you want to combine the two and say you can't have, this is back to Saturn. You cannot have the kite flying without the kite string. You need to tether yourself down here, but not be attached to either direction. They work together. This is what connection is. This is what guidance is. This is what is what makes us whole. This is when we feel guided, when we feel real inspiration. That whole willpower that's through the sun mixed with the creative principle of the sun, with the Mars, willpower Mars and creative principle. It works really well when we learn to, okay, there's this opportunity we have, and then, okay, but then that doesn't, when we look inwards, I keep repeating the same thing again and again, because that's true. So choose what will die based on inspired guidance and guided inspiration. Okay. And Jupiter, I forgot to mention this, with all the planets and bodies in Sagittarius, when we look at Jupiter in retrograde in Taurus, again it teaches us to slow down, especially in retrograde, to slow down, see what practically makes sense, and use Mother Earth as a way to channel those energies of psychic abilities, change, rebirth, death, losses, and embrace that in surrendering. Use Mother Earth. Mother Earth knows, right? Mother Earth is one example of many things. Right? Your body is actually continually dies and reborn. It's burned. It goes through this whole cycle of processing, right? When you have hair that fall out, do you think that's it? It's going to fall out and then all of a sudden, no, it's still there. There's still parts of it there. When you go bald, does that mean there's no hair follicles? No. It just means that, it's a process. We can't look at it in terms of like just being stuck in the material world. And that's the thing, right? You find that's part of the whole finding the gifts in everything. We're talking about the tiniest little thing to the biggest, gargantuan fucking so every single thing. The speck of dust to the person, that was apparently harmed you, or they hurt you, or the experience you have, the job loss, or the job you're getting now, or the opportunities that are to come, the people you meet on the way, the things you get, the money you get, all of it. Finding the gifts in every experience, especially the ones that affect us on an emotional level, that trigger the egoic desire to separate. Right? So this is the opportunity to go inwards, to go down into Mother Earth, to go down into, because Taurus is about sensuality, but it's also about creation. It's also about building. It's the builder of the zodiac. It's the construction worker, so to speak. It's working with what you got in a slower pace, and learning to appreciate. This is what it ties into value. It's appreciation, esteem, self-esteem, developing your own self-esteem, right? With all the processes right here that we're going through, especially with Mercury transitioning into Capricorn, it's teaching us to learn from these processes of really slowing down, finding what self-worth really is. What is worth? Do we just say this is worth that? That's not what that is. There's worth in everything. Right? So that's the whole finding gifts in everything as well. It's using sensuality, using the Venusian energy. Right? Especially with Cassandra there. I forgot to mention Cassandra. And Cronus, you have your inner gifts. With inner gifts and inner talents. When we start, don't rely on what people say. Don't rely on what, just because someone doesn't believe you, then you have this inspiration inside you. That's when your Cyrus comes in and it's like, whoa, okay, bye-bye, time to throw that away. I'm going to put you in my fucking garbage, and then, bye, see you later, bye-bye, ciao, sayonara, okay, arrivederci, whatever it is, whatever you want to do with the whole process, but in a healthier way, a healthier ego, a healthier way of, and then it's like, okay, that's fine, that's what they want, but I may or may not see you again, that's totally fine. And we have to create these boundaries as well. That's where Saturn comes into it. It creates boundaries from the ever expanding Jupiterian energy that influences Sagittarius, like Cassandra, and teaching us here to embrace our inner talents, our hidden talents. Cronus is right here. I'm going to Cronus. I believe that Cronus has something to do with, see that here. Okay, so hidden talents. The heart of Apollo. Oh, okay. Miraculous. Okay. Miracles. Okay. Prophetic abilities. Okay. Attractive qualities and your success potentials. Okay. So when we go into the shadows, dilemma of taking one's natural talents for granted. Okay, it's similar to no wonder it's tied to Cassandra. When we look inwards, it's not just looking inwards for the sake of looking inwards, right? It's probably this potential that we have of wondering what our talents are, or rather even taking them for granted. It's kind of like the third house. Cronus is kind of behaved like the third house, like when we take for granted certain skills, especially in this case, if Saturn were in the third house, because I have that, it's like hidden talents, or rather Pluto in the third house, which I also have. So it's like, but we won't find it until we, I would say, be able to experiment. There's that Mercury thing, and especially with it being in Capricorn, it's time to kind of, Capricorn again is learning to figure out the wisdom that it gains from experience, from the wisdom from optimism, the wisdom from exploration from Sagittarius, and then into Aquarius. It won't go into Aquarius, which is very innovation. It's all about innovation. It's about new things. It's about just like transformation. It's about out there beyond the limits of what we think are the limits. Because when we have limits and we impose limits on ourselves, that's Saturn. But there's a good thing about that. When we need the limits, that's when we need to learn from that. So when we go into that, so go back to that Capricorn energy that Mercury is in right now, it's about these new beginnings of new ideas and new information, new learning, and but also new opportunities to figure out, is there something I missed? But we have to look at it from a very youthful, sort of childlike perspective, the approach rather. Right? Okay, so experiment. That's linked to that whole what the Capricorn is going to learn eventually. Oh, that's the energy of Capricorn. It's there to eventually learn that it's like, by experimenting, okay, by doing, by sticking with what needs to happen, it can be innovative as well. Right? So that's part of innovation. Innovation and experimentation are very similar. Innovation just comes from the wisdom of knowing that I've experimented, I know which ones work. Okay, and pick and choose, right? That's the Aquarian thing. Right? This is why it's the water bearer. It doesn't get the whole fucking ocean and carries and pours over. No, it takes what it needs from knowledge that it gained from previous energy, or previous rather experience, same thing, into what works, what elevates us. Right? What elevates you as individuals and what elevates us as a collective. So here it ties back into the hidden talents of Coronas with the doubts that you might have about your own taken for granted skills that you feel like, just kind of put it. You may never know. Experiment. There are things that you probably can look back into. And that's Capricorn as well. That's heading into Capricorn. It's Sagittarius going into Capricorn, going back into tradition, going back and say, is there something that I have right now that's even connected back to being present? Gratitude, meditate on that gratitude. But being alive, is there something? Is there probably those little things? That's part of the experimentation. It's like you take risk by experimenting with something that came from the past and into the future as well. So it's all connected. That's the whole point. So what else can we see from here? We've already mentioned the whole Venus thing. Okay. So Eos is about new beginnings. It's actually trine to, is it trine or sextile? Either way, it's in a potential aspect to Cassandra. Okay. New beginnings of being able to figure out, because Eos right now is in Libra, so new beginnings in like relationships, sure, but in terms of also like self-worth, in terms of what needs to be reevaluated, that's an Eris, that's a Regent energy, and then kind of figure out which one do I need to, how do I tip the scales so that it's now in my favor, but at the same time in the favor of everybody else, meaning in the favor of being connected and not separated like the ego. Okay, so really connecting to not only the self, like inwards, but also figuring what's around us, because Libra is still about sensuality. Libra is still ruled by Venus, so it's like working with the things around us, especially with our career. Well, this one's in the 10th house, so may or may not. I'm digressing there, but may or may not be in your 10th house. But the point is, Eos is in Libra, and Eos showing us new beginnings and the potential to use the energy of Eos with Cassandra, so that, because Cassandra is the part of us that, it's just kind of, it's almost like Venus, where it's like Cassandra, like what do you call this, when we just know something but nobody believes us. So there's sort of in a way it's kind of like resentment, but it's more like, it's pacifist type of approach to resentment. Necessarily more like pacifist, as in like I never really acknowledge it. So it's a validation, right? So time to validate our own inner gifts, our own inner talents, our own inner abilities to know which things to throw away, what to put in the garbage, what to kind of keep, and what to into the future, and not forget the past, acknowledge the gifts of the past and bring it in forward, but at a more paced, slow, more guided, bringing into presence, coming into the body, doing all those things that I mentioned earlier. So new beginnings, Eos, it's a new time for, new beginnings doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be like, oh, I forget about the past. It's like, oh, I don't need to do anything else because it's now I'm being guided into the future, and like, okay, then, right? So let me look further into Eos. Okay. So choosing to have, choosing to go back, it goes back to the whole rekindled passion, rekindling things that, it talks about here, love affairs, but it could also be things that you have yourself. It could also be relationship. But that ties into how Eos actually works with Cassandra here. It's like our relationship with ourselves. That rekindling, that's... So, besides the whole meditation thing, look for things that you're grateful about, not only that you've gotten, but the things that you have yourself created. Both Libra and Sagittarius have that creative energy, right? So it's about the opportunities and everything is creation, really, if you think about it. But there's also the gifts we can find in the destruction, the death and the life of things. It's two sides of the same coin. Okay, so with Eos showing us the rekindling of those things, maybe there's things that those taken for granted skills or abilities, psychic powers, all those things. You never know what you have until you really... It's like a treasure chest, right? Go back into opening that treasure chest, right? Seeing what else is there and carrying it forward and seeing what needs to be thrown away, and really make a decision, because now we're heading into Capricorn. It's time to, once Capricorn goes into transition into later into Aquarius, it's out with the old, in with the new. But that doesn't mean that we really completely disregard and discard the old just because it says it's old. Just because it's outdated, just because it's the past, does not mean there's something we can't learn from that. So that's really what it means. It's not about out with the useless and in with the useful. Okay? That's really what the old and the new mean. Right? There's something to be said about everything. There's always a gift. There's always something. There's always magic around us. There's always opportunities. There's always time for everything. Everything is just connected. Okay. So, That's all I'm going to say for today because I've said a lot. I hope that helps you guys. We're just going to end this session with a moment to go back into silence and stillness. And that's what's more important because that's really our essence. Even if there's thoughts in your head, let it pass. Draw your attention back to the body, your hands, or your fingers, your feet. Where are you sitting? When your eyes blink, attention to that. Then your attention to your breath. Okay, you can continue this form of stillness in silence whenever you can. At your own time, you can make it a practice which is really beneficial. You can even take a cold shower or do the Wim Hof method before this, and then just sit. Surrender. I hope this helps you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you later.